Welcome to Hood Champion Boxing and Sports. In boxing, you find a way to win or you find a way to lose. Terence Crawford or Inoue? That's the conversation. Now, I've seen a lot of people out here who are of the opinion that Naoya Inoue, when compared to Terence Crawford, that he should be recognized as a pound for pound best in the sport of boxing. Now, and the reason I say that is because he's bubbled up through 4 or 5 different weight divisions, right? But this is my thing. I don't know if that's fair to look at the 4 or 5 weight divisions that Inoue has managed to become a champion in, and the fact that he's become a 2-time undisputed, right? That's a huge accomplishment. But when you look at these lower weight classes, super flyweight and bantamweight and flyweight, and junior flyweight, then down here at minimum weight 105 pounds. I mean, if you go up 7 pounds and you become a champion, right? Going up 7 pounds is 3 divisions. Because if you started off at 105 pounds, that's minimum weight, then junior flyweight is 108 pounds. That's 3 pounds right there. Then you get the flyweight is 112 pounds. So a 7-pound gain, you become a champion in 3 different divisions. Now, when you look at Terence Crawford, hey, he started off at 135, went to 140 and 147. But if, in fact, those weight divisions from 135 to 147 were broken out by 3 pounds each, well, now you're talking about Terence Crawford being, more than a three division world champion. So again, I'm not so sure that's the angle that I would approach an argument with saying Naoya Inoue should be fighter of the year. I'm not sure that's the angle that I would approach it from, because when you look at it, it's not really fair. And I still don't quite agree with how they have all these weight divisions broken out. I understand why it's like that. People keep saying, oh, well, 1 pound makes a big difference, and you don't know what you're talking about if you're out here saying that the weight division should be, like 120 to 129, 130 to 139. 10 pounds is too much. Well, how about this? Right? There's just too many weight divisions. They need to figure it out, because the sanctioning bodies have it like that so they can get that dough. That's all it is, people. And it's hard for me to give credit to somebody who bubbles up 4 pounds and beats somebody. When you look at most of these guys who are killing themselves to get down to weight, just to hit that scale for a moment in time, just to come in the ring and balloon up like goddamn 3, 4 different weight divisions anyway. So I think it's a little bit skewed. But that being said, when you look at the things Terence Crawford has been able to do in all of his fights, I just find it's hard for me to sit here now and say Naoya Inoue, as far as pound for pound, is better than Terence Crawford. I do think you got to take a look at the opponents they've had in front of them. And don't get me wrong, Naoya Inoue obviously has beaten champions in those weight classes, but I think Antonio Tarver makes a good point where he talks about just who has Inoue beaten. Who are these guys? I think he makes a good point. But at the same time, a champion is a champion. Because if we're going to sit there and say Naoya Inoue has fought nobodies to win titles across multiple weight divisions, well, that's the same thing they said about Terence Crawford. You know what I mean? That he's fought nobodies. What are the names on his resume? See, so we got to be fair when having that discussion. But what I will tell you is when it comes to Crawford and Inoue and pound for pound, what they've both shown us in their fights is that there's something special about those guys. Now, I think it's extremely important to really understand Terence Crawford and fighting in the States, having fought in the UK, and across 3 different weight divisions. I don't think Crawford has necessarily been, and I'm just going to go ahead and say this. Some people may or may not agree. I don't think Crawford is out here and has a country looking out for him to where they want to make sure he wins. I don't think so. Here in America, it's not like that. Not for no goddamn Terence Crawford. There's no country want to make sure that their American fighter wins a fight. There's no country willing to jump through hoops and possibly bend some rules and make sure they have all the advantages necessary going into a fight. That's not how it works over here for Terence Crawford. Nobody likes him. It's horrible. I've heard all kind of shit said about Terence Crawford. That's just not fair. It's just not fair, man. From a lot of things. I don't even want to repeat it, right? But horrible stuff. So he's out here, man, back against the wall every time. And he keeps finding a way to win. He goes into that phone booth, turns into Southpaw man, comes out, within a couple of rounds, the fight ends. Now Naoya Inoue, he has a whole country behind him that will do anything to make sure he keeps getting wins and staying undefeated. Now, I'm not saying anybody's cheating for him. I'm not saying there's any foul play going on. What I am saying, I do believe that there's a country behind him and wants to make sure he keeps winning. And I'm going to say that because you take a look at goddamn Manny Pacquiao and how that referee came out and said, hey, basically he was Filipino, Pacquiao's Filipino, and the Filipino secret society touched him on the shoulder and basically said, hey, you know what you got to do. And when Pacquiao went down faster than a plate of Alabama barbecue when he got knocked down by that Australian early in Pacquiao's career, the referee gave him the 40 count. He made sure Pacquiao got up and had all the time to recover. And with times in that fight where he probably should have stopped the fight, he made sure Pacquiao didn't get stopped. He didn't get counted out. He kept giving him opportunity after opportunity to where he regained his faculties, and Pacquiao went on to get the big win. So I'm telling you, stuff like that happens. And I don't think, but the things I'm saying, I just don't think anybody's doing that for Terence Crawford. But if it was to take place, I'm not saying it has. For those of you who are like, screw you, head champion, Naoya Inoue is not a cheat. I didn't say he's a cheat. All I told you, I think he's a pound-for-pound great. I'm just having a conversation. If something like that were to happen, I would think it would happen more for Inoue than for Terence Crawford. Simple. Now, as far as going forward, look, man, who knows what the future holds? Terence Crawford seems to be at the end of his career. Inoue seems to still have some legs. But what I will tell you is this. In my opinion, for Terence Crawford, the fact that he hasn't really had any advantages. Don't get me wrong. I do got to kind of put a little hairy eyeball on him with the whole Victor Conte thing and snack thing. I just think when you have somebody working with a pharmaceutical genius, and not just Terence Crawford, anyone, and they're going up against an opponent who doesn't have the equivalent of that pharmaceutical genius in their camp, I just think it's going to be hard for those guys to beat someone who has that brain helping them to reach optimal levels of performance before going into a fight. And the other thing is the fact that Crawford at one point in time, as a result of Bob Arum, had some kind of dealings with Daniel Kinahan. But outside of those two things, which I don't think carries much weight in an argument about Terence Crawford possibly being involved in any kind of foul play, I just think we'd be reaching if we decided to pursue that kind of argument. I just think Crawford edges out Inoue, in my opinion. And again, it goes back to, like, we talk about all the weight divisions, but then those lighter weight classes, like I said, jumping up 7 pounds, that's 3 different weight divisions. It doesn't quite work that way when you start to get up above 126, 126, 130. It doesn't. The weight division, those jumps are a little bit more. But at the end of the day, they both have done great things, put in work. But I just think people need to just hold their horses, stop taking it to the stupid. The way they're just coming out here saying, Inoue. Because when you look at Terence Crawford and how he went, and in particular what he did, I mean, even at 135 and at 140, but at 147, you got to be honest, man. I understand the conversation about old Earl Spence and how he looked, but Earl Spence was out here, man, like a sniper. He had 3 bullets, and he had 3 kills. And he made sure every time he fired that he hit the mark. You know what I'm saying? Kell Brook, in his other 2 fights to pick up his belts. That man ain't mess around. Every time he fired a shot, he picked up a belt. And then he came across another bullet, took aim on Terence Crawford, put him in the line of sight, took the shot and missed. And Crawford was able to get him out of there. So I just think with a guy like Errol Spence and what he was doing, and to get a win over someone like that, I think that carries a lot of weight. A lot of weight. It really does, in my opinion. Because remember, Errol Spence was supposed to go fight Canelo and whip Canelo's ass. Remember that? Errol Spence was supposed to be able to go up to cruiserweight, go up to heavyweight. Errol Spence hits like Deontay Wilder. Errol Spence. Oh, it's never been hit like that. Errol Spence. It was all this Errol Spence talk. But at the same time, we gotta still say that Errol Spence was the man going into that Crawford fight, and Crawford just happened to get the best of him. And no one Inoue has faced has been characterized the way Errol Spence was characterized before going into the Crawford fight. Inoue has always been described as a monster. None of his opponents were described as a monster. So again, Inoue is great, and I think he'll continue to do great things. But when you look at just that one fight Crawford had, just that Errol Spence alone, to me, that carries a lot more weight because of the threat that Errol Spence posed when you start comparing that to Naoya Inoue and the individuals that he fought, especially in the last couple of fights against Fulton and against Tapales. But that being said, we won't always agree, but I think it's a good conversation when you really take a look at Crawford and Inoue and their resumes, in particular the last couple of fights, and start peeling the layers back to understand, okay, forget the fact that they got to win. The opponent they won against, what had their opponents done? And when you start doing that, I think it's only one conclusion a person can arrive at, and that Terence Crawford deserves to be, they both deserve to be on the pound-for-pound list, but Crawford should be above Inoue. And that's just how I see it. Y'all keep cool. I'm in the breeze.